Good morning, truckers. I'm Josh Jones. 7 new victims were found last night in the Grayson Cemetery, the newest slayings of the Clintonville slasher. Wait, hold on. It's just in. We have a video, apparently, of the Clintonville slasher, but I must warn you, viewer discretion is advised. It looks like we found his last victim. My name is Lurch Frankenfox, and I hide in the shadows of this small town. And you are my latest victim. I am the Clintonville Slasher. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Clintonville Slasher. Happy Friday. Today, I am joined by Mr. Josh Bentson from Nightmare in Woodsboro Lake. What's up, my dude?
What is up? I'm excited to be
Yeah, I'm excited to be here, too. So today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be discussing the difference between Silver Bullet and the book, The Cycle of the Werewolf. So, Josh, you're going to be covering the movie, and I'm going to be covering the book. And then at the end of this, what we'll do is we'll decide which story holds up, which story is better.
Okay.
All right. So you want to give us a little rundown of the film?
Yeah. So, Silver Bullet released back in October 11th, 1985. It was directed by Dan Atelius. I don't know how to pronounce the name, but
it's Atelius.
This was like his debut film, and it was the only film that he ever actually did. He worked on other films, but this is the only one he ever directed. After that, he just went on to direct television shows. But I really enjoyed this. I mean, I would have loved to see more from him film-wise, but
absolutely.
So we're focused on a family out in this small town. Have Marty and Jane, their brother and sister. And they have this eccentric uncle, Uncle Red.
Your audio's cutting out again, man.
Crap. Hold on. Gotta love technology.
Yeah, right? Technical difficulties.
Okay. Let me know if this is any better. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, it's not. Is it cutting out still, or?
No, it sounds better now.
Okay, good. Okay. But yeah, so, there's all these killings that start happening in this small little town, and I guess I should have not skipped over this, but Marty's a paraplegic kid, and you see a lot of like the struggle of being, him being paraplegic, and his sister, like his parents are always like, you need to help Marty, get him, and she's like her brother's keeper,
right?
And you can tell that she really doesn't. She has like this strained relationship with her brother. Which I thought was interesting because you see that same parallel with the mom and their Uncle Red. It seems like that same situation, like, you don't have the greatest relationship. He drinks a lot, and he's like, very loudmouth, and like, she's like, thinks that he's like a horrible influence on Marty. But so you've got, it's based around this family in this small town, and there's all these killings that start going on, and Marty has the suspicion that that the werewolf. He actually. Can I go ahead and just do I jump right into?
Yeah, well, spoilers ahead. We're gonna ruin the shit out of this movie, so go for it.
His first run-in really with this werewolf is he's out lighting fireworks on a bridge. And he gets approached by the werewolf and ends up shooting the motherfucker in the eye.
Yeah. It's a rad scene.
And it's so awesome because, I guess I kind of skipped over, but his uncle actually makes him this really awesome, like, gas-powered bike thing, you know, to get him around.
That's his wheelchair. Yeah, it's fucking amazing.
Yeah, I was like, dude, I want one of those. I'm not even disabled. I would love to have that shit.
Fuck yeah, dude, that shit is rad as fuck.
So his uncle, I mean, he's pretty handy, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
He knows what he's doing. But yeah, so he's like trying to like convince, you know, his friends and his like family that it's a werewolf doing this murdering in the town, and you know nobody wants to believe him, and God, it, you know, he finally gets his sister on board with this, kind of, and I thought this was an interesting fact, but I was doing a little research too. Like, there's a scene that they go to the Reverend, to his house or garage or something, the garage he's working in, and there's Diet Coke cans in the garage, and Diet Coke didn't exist in the setting of this film. It's supposed to be set in 1976, and Diet Coke didn't exist.
Really?
So, yeah.
I didn't know the film took place in 76. That's interesting.
Yeah, that was the time frame for where it's supposed to be based. And I was like, huh. The things you don't like really notice, like,
right?
Especially if you're not from I'm not from the 80s, so like I didn't know when Diet Coke came out, so I was like, oh, that's a fun fact.
That is really cool.
But yeah, and so just I mean, like, I guess I can just plow through this if you like, because
go for it, man.
I'm sure, do you want me to just go through the whole film and then you go through the book?
Well, we'll stop right there with the film, and then I'll kind of touch base on the book. The book is titled "The Cycle of the Werewolf." It does take place in a small town in Maine that's called Tucker's, I'm not sure, but this book doesn't take place in 76. It takes place in 1983, from January to December. Now, you mentioned Jane and Marty. They are in this book. They are in the book. They are characters in the book. However, the book, the story of the book does not symbolize or does not revolve around Marty, nor does it revolve around his wheelchair. So, Uncle Al does give him firecrackers in the story. You mentioned that, but he does not give him the wheelchair. Now, the significance of what you were talking about when the werewolf gets his eye shot out, it's the exact same thing in the book. It's the exact same thing, except he doesn't use a Roman candle. He uses firecrackers. So he does throw them at the werewolf. Now, this book is really good because it's illustrated and it's got really good pictures. So from January, where it starts off, in the same place where it is in the movie, the first death is Arnie Winston, and he gets murdered at the train yard. That's the first film kill in there. Now, it's the same thing, except Arnie is decapitated at the neck, but he's actually in he's actually in a room. He's not just out looking around. So the first kill does happen the same way in the story that it happens in the book. Now, and then after that, it moves on to February. Now, in February, the second death is actually a suicide. Do you remember that?
The suicide?
Yeah, the suicide where the girl is taking pills and she's about to kill herself and she's about to die. Do you remember that? Do you remember why she tried to kill herself?
Oh, shoot. No, I don't.
She was pregnant with a married man's baby.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's ringing bells now that you mentioned that.
Right, so it's the same thing in the story. She does get killed in her bedroom, except she doesn't die that way in the book. The way she dies in the book is she loses her V card to the werewolf, and then he kills her. And it's it's pretty descriptive. It's like sort of like a lust thing, you know. The werewolf comes into her room at night, and there's no mention of a suicide or not, but the werewolf comes in and makes love to her, and takes her virginity, and then he fucking murders her.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Quick, was he in his werewolf form when he did that?
Yes, yeah, he does climb the lattice into her room as the werewolf, and then does the deed, and then brutally rips her apart. So they did change it quite a bit between the book and the movie there. So, continue on with the rest of your notes.
Yeah. So, you know, they start to develop the suspicion that, you know, all of a sudden, like, after that whole incident with the bottle rocket on the bridge, they've noticed that the Reverend is wearing an eye patch.
Yes.
And it is, you know, obviously, like, nobody else in town is wearing a fucking eye patch. So, like, you know, Marty's like, oh shit, like, that's gotta be, you know, that he must be the werewolf, because, you know, it's obvious. So,
yeah.
You know, that's when they started doing that whole thing with, like, the cans and stuff. Like, he finally...
Uh-oh, you froze.
Trying to...
Oh, you're a bit.
Yeah, I lost you.
Yeah, you froze for a second.
Shit. But yeah, so then I think, you know, there's like this whole segment, like, too, that the Reverend knows that Marty is onto him. And I love that scene because, like, he's like just coming after him with all he has in his car. He's chasing him down. He's trying to run him off the road over the bridge, you know, and like, damn, dude, you're pretty low trying to kill a paraplegic kid.
Yeah.
Like, right? It's bad enough, you know, all these other people you're killing, but, like, shit, you gotta go after the crippled kid? Like...
Yeah, it's fucked. Okay, so that part that you're talking about how Marty finds out who he is. Okay, so the part you were talking about with the firecrackers takes place in July. July is where Marty really comes into this story in particular in the book. So when he comes into story, he shoots the firecrackers. Marty's not actually mentioned again until October. So in October, the only reason, that he finds out that Reverend Lowe is the werewolf is because he's trick-or-treating and knocks on the Reverend Lowe's door. And he knocks on the Reverend Lowe's door. Sorry, I'm flipping through pages. When he knocks on the Reverend Lowe's door, I'll show you the picture. Marty's dressed up like Yoda. Okay, so he's dressed like Yoda, and that's how he figures out that Reverend Lowe is the werewolf, and he figures it out. And when he tells his uncle about it, actually, that part where you're talking about where he stops Marty in the covered bridge is not in the story. So this movie really bases itself. The screenplay really bases itself around Marty, and that really isn't how the story is. This story is about Tucker's Mill. This story is everybody that's in Tucker's Mill, and it's 12 months. And I'll get to that in a minute. Now, do you remember the scene where Reverend Lowe has a nightmare and the entire congregation turns into werewolves? Okay, so
yeah,
so that part in the book is explained the same way, except when Reverend Lowe wakes up from his nightmare, he ends up tearing the shit out of the janitor. Like, completely tore the fucking shit out of the janitor. So, I just think it's a totally different story. There's similarities between it. The book goes into a little more in depth, and everybody that the werewolf kills, it seems like he's like coming for them somehow. Like, he just knows that they're after him, or it's a really weird, complex story that he knows that he's there. That he's coming after him for like a reason. So, I'm sorry to interrupt you. So I guess, okay. So so after the suicide, the third death of the film is the girl's drunk dad. Remember that part?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in that story, do you remember her name? The little girl that's friends with Marty? I can't remember her name off the top of my head.
Yeah, you got me. I didn't. I don't remember, like, I know like the main characters, but like
Right.
I don't remember like the.
I don't remember.
like,
I don't
the
recall
names.
her name either. But her father gets killed. Like he goes into, like, he's all drunk and he goes into that pottering, like, his greenhouse. He goes inside.
Yeah.
He's shooting at shit in the dark, and the werewolf comes out of the floor and fucking pulls him down and rips the shit out of him. So that part isn't in the book at all. That was completely written for the film.
Oh.
So, let's go over the fourth death. The fourth death is Brady and the kite. Do you remember the part, the kite death?
Yeah, that's his, like, friend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through that scene a little bit?
Oh, shit.
If you can remember it.
I see. I remember bits of it, but like, I couldn't give like play by play here. So Brady, yeah.
Brady's his buddy, and they're flying the kite together, and then it gets late, and he has to leave. And then the constable's walking back with his kite, and he's all Hail Mary,
like,
full of grace.
Comes up on and his sister ends up coming and getting him. Like, she finds him on her bike. Yeah, I remember that part of it, and then like them having to leave together. But God, I don't remember the whole. I know he gets like shredded to pieces.
Right.
Like,
So this part is probably my favorite part of this book. It is explained that actually Marty isn't friends with this kid in the book. He's not. He doesn't really. Marty has no friends in the book. He's not a very likable person.
Oh.
You know, but no one has. He's not friends with him. So in this particular movie part, the kid is flying his kite, and it's set up this way. His kid's flying the kite. It's in the dark, and all of a sudden the tight string falls, and when it falls, it pulls tight, and the kid is like looking out into the field, and it's just about to be. It's the end of winter, right in the beginning of spring, so it's warm outside. So he's looking in the shadows. All he can see is the fog of the park in the background. He can't see anything else except for the moonlight shining at him. His kite fucking pulls string. The string pulls like really tight, and all of a sudden the kid is like trying to pull his string back, and the werewolf comes barreling at him, full force, and fucking disembowels him, cuts his head off, and completely tears the absolute shit out of this kid. And it is a violent, brutal, very descriptive way that they die. And it, like, the part in the book where they're talking about this, like, it paints such a beautiful picture of what the werewolf do. Because I put myself in that position. I'm flying a kite, and all of a sudden it just falls in the fog. Like, that's the most terrifying fucking thing. And all of a sudden you see this 7-foot fucking werewolf fly at you. Like, what are you supposed to do? I'd shit my pants.
Yeah, I'm a fucking. Even if I wasn't a kid, I'm a full-grown man. I'd probably shit a brick and like.
Yeah,
like,
dude.
I don't know what I'd do in that situation. I'd freeze. I don't think. I mean, like, I'd love to say, oh, I try to fight him off, or oh, I try to do this and that, but I'm pretty sure I'd freeze up. I'd
Right.
probably be like,
Freak the fuck out.
It just happened.
So the kid Brady in the story is described as kind of a bully, kind of a punk. He kind of bullies other kids. He steals shit. He's kind of a jerk. So the fifth death in the film is the townspeople. This part in the film is where the townspeople, they gather up and they go. It's private justice, is what they say.
Yeah.
And they're going to look for Marty. They're going to look for the killer. And in the book, they call him the Full Moon Killer, which I think is fucking super awesome. So the constable and all of his guys, they load up their trucks and they fucking go out into the woods. And they got the bartender, and he's got the baseball bat that says Peacemaker on it, right? And the werewolf comes out of nowhere, tears the fog, tears the shit out of him. The same thing in the book,
Yeah. Except
the only difference is that Brady and the constable aren't father and son. That connection isn't in the book. The difference with that is that the constable is in the barber shop and he's talking fucking mad shit about how he's gonna catch this guy. And he says something about it's gonna take good old fashioned police work. And he's sitting in his truck. I just passed the page. So he's sitting in his truck. He's talking shit. And he's like, he's sitting in his truck later that night. And he's like talking shit about or in the barbershop, talking shit about how he's gonna get this guy. He's gonna get the full moon killer. He's gonna fuck him up. All this shit. So later that night, he's sitting in his truck. I'm sorry, I'm looking for the page. And, okay. He's sitting in his truck. And all of a sudden, the werewolf comes. And what he does is he fucking comes through the door and tears off his fucking face from his jaw and totally, like, disfigures his head. Completely fucks his head, like, tears his head off. Now, here's the picture of them tearing the shit out of him. I'll show it to you, too. It's fucking awesome. So, at the end of this chapter, I'll read it for you, too. It says, it feeds with beer giggles out of the spilled bottle and foams on the floor by the truck's brake and clutch pedals. So much for psychology, so much for good police work. Because that's what he was saying in the barbershop. And I just love the way that fucking chapter ends. That is so fucking good. Oh my god, I fucking love it. That whole private justice thing. And he fucking just shreds the absolute fuck out of him. So, continue. I kind of took over the episode here. So why don't you continue on with your notes?
No, that's good. I was gonna say that scene was so intense in the movie. Like they're all like, you know, it's just like any monster movie where they're all like the townspeople gather. They're like, you know, they're gonna fucking Elmer Fudd this shit. Go out in the woods, fucking hunt them some rabbit. You know,
Elmer
and
Fudd
like
this
you know
shit.
the police officer, the sheriff comes in there and he's like, you know, trying to say like you guys are like one step away from lynch mobs and like, you know, torches and shit. And they're like, and then the dad of Brady pipes up and he's like, he's like, private justice. Like, I just got back from my son's funeral.
Yeah.
You know, and torn to fucking pieces. Like, so you know what? I'm gonna go get private justice.
Yeah, I'm gonna go look for this motherfucker.
Yeah, it's like, you don't understand, Mike. Because the officer was like, you know, like, I understand, like, what you're going through, kind of like trying to like relate to him. Like, you don't know shit, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you weren't burying your son, so get the fuck out of here with that shit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go, and that was just intense. I could feel it. I was like, I can only imagine having to like bury your kid, like.
Yeah, it's gotta be fucking horrible.
But and a fun part about that too, I noticed, is like he mentions Harmony Hill, the cemetery, and that's actually referencing another Stephen King adaptation, Salem Lot.
Yes, it's also in the book as well.
Okay. So I thought that's cool. They kind of like toss that in there. They always like. I love how like the universes are connected always in some way. You know, like I think you and I talked about that in that It episode, like how Stephen King has the whole world built. You know, and everything kind of references each other, and it's all part of the same universe. But yeah, so they get totally just massacred out in fog, out in the woods, trying to like get their private justice.
Yeah, just get fucking wrecked too. And the constable does die in the film, is where like he's in the garage, and that's when he finds, because that's when Jane, I think, completely convinces the constable that it is Reverend Lowe. That Reverend Lowe is the killer. He's the full moon killer. He's the werewolf. Because at first Jane doesn't really think that that Marty's telling the truth, that he's imagining shit, but maybe he did see him and like his brain just convinced him that it was a wolf. But and so the constable does go and confront Reverend Lowe, and then Reverend Lowe turns into a werewolf and beats him to death with a baseball bat, which is fucking awesome. But actually, the constable figures it out because he finds the peacemaker, the broken piece, the bat, in the Reverend's garage because they're looking for cans. Yeah. So, let's see here. Okay. And then the seventh death in this film is Reverend Lowe's death. So the seventh film, the conclusion of this story, takes place in December. So after, let's kind of back up. So after Marty figures out who the werewolf is, he starts sending him death threats, starts sending him notes, and in that time frame, Marty figures it out because Marty starts signing his name, or Reverend Lowe figures it out because Marty starts signing his name. Because he said that if his ideology behind that, by sending his name out, was if he wasn't the werewolf, he would say something to my dad. You know, he would talk to my dad and get this all straightened up, and he never did. So Uncle Al, he gets Marty a silver bullet, and he has him made, and he's, you know, just sits with him and watches the ball drop. New Year's Eve comes around, everybody's in bed, and the fucking front window bursts open. It bursts open, fucking tears fucking Uncle Al's shirt open, tears up her chest, grabs fucking Jane, tosses Jane across the fucking floor, goes to grab Marty, and Marty plugs him in the fucking face. Similar to what happens in the book is the same thing that happens in the movie. The only difference is that the fact that the Coleslaws, their parents, are actually home in the book. They're not home in the movie. They're home in the book, though. You know, it kind of paints a picture as, you know, Mrs. Coleslaw coming down, holding up her robe, like looking at this man, Reverend Lowe, turn back into from a wolf, from a 7-foot wolf into a man. So it's a very descriptive story. Now, throughout this entire story, does it ever explain to you how Reverend Lowe turned into a werewolf in the movie?
You know, if it did, it totally went over my head. I don't think that I at least picked up.
Actually, it doesn't. It doesn't exactly explain what happened. In the book, it's kind of, everybody that I explained dies in the story is a bad person. So we'll start with Arnie Winston. Arnie Winston was a drunk. Okay, he was a drunk. He was a drug user. There's a couple of people in the book. One of them is lusting and cheating on his wife. A couple of people. The girl's dad in the book is a drunk, an abuser. The girl who is a suicide, who also lost her virginity to the wolf, is suicide, lust, Kate, the kite death, Brady, bully, racist mob. All these people. The constable was also a racist. The townspeople were very racist. It's the N-word flies around the book a lot. So all these people that the werewolf killed broke a cardinal rule in kind of like in a biblical sense. Now it says in the book that Reverend Lowe was actually picking flowers one day, and the flowers from the cemetery that you explained died. As he picked them, they died. My interpretation of how Reverend Lowe turned into a werewolf is biblical, that he is actually turned into a werewolf by the vengeance of God, and Tucker's Mill had to be cleansed. And I think that is why I think the book is far surpasses the movie. I love this movie in a visual aspect because I love it. It's a great fucking visual story. It's a great movie. It's a great story. It really pulls on the heartstring when it comes to Marty. However, when it comes to a plot, when it comes to the storyline, when it comes to the ending of this book, really made me fall in love with the entire thing. So in my argument, I really think that The Cycle of the Werewolf is far better than the Silver Bullet movie. That's just my conclusion.
And I have not read The Cycle of the Werewolf. But coming from other books that I've read versus movies that I've seen, it always seems to lean that way. Like, I feel like most books surpass the movies. There's so much more to the books. And from what you've shared, it definitely sounds like there is so much more backstory and so much more to it than just like a werewolf just killing people in this town
at random.
Yeah. And the paraplegic kid kills him. Like,
exactly.
There's so much more context.
Yes, and I found out some interesting things about Silver Bullet. Number one is that Stephen King wanted the werewolf to not stand out so much, to actually be more stealth and kind of blend in with people. To the actual werewolf costume that they used. First of all, the person that was wearing the werewolf costume was actually a professional dancer. He was a ballerina. I don't know what you call it, male ballerina. Anyway, the costume wasn't ready for 3 months after shooting. So all the parts that you see, all the like townspeople and shit like that, that was all shot 3 months prior because they couldn't get the werewolf costume. And then they hated it. They absolutely fucking hated the design of it. But by then it was too late. Number 3, Gary Busey was an actual lunatic on set. Was completely really hard to work with because he ad-libbed.
I don't doubt that.
He ad-libbed every line. He threw the script out and just ad-libbed and drank the entire time, which I think is genius. Because that's exactly how Uncle Al is in the story. That's exactly how he should be in the script. And I think that Gary Busey probably is the star of this film, just because of just that simple fact. But Stephen King absolutely loves Gary Busey in this movie. He says that he is one of his favorite characters for any adaptation that he's ever done from his book, because he said the same thing I said. Like, it's Uncle Al on spot. The director actually changed in the middle of shooting. The original actor was Don Cosgley. I'm gonna murder this dude's name. Anyway, he was the director of Phantasm, Beastmaster, and Bubba Hotep. So, and then they switched to Daniel Atlas, who you're right, it was his first and only debut film. He never did another film, but he did so many TV shows. He did 21 Jump Street, 90210, The Sopranos, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, The Walking Dead, and amongst many, many, many others. He was an amazing director, and I love what he did with this film, because I think that it's really, really fantastically put together.
Yeah.
Number 6, it wasn't a fan favorite, actually. People didn't like it. It had a $7 million budget and only made $6 million in the box office. People didn't like it. For some reason, it didn't hit well. Probably because it came out at the same weekend as Commando did. So they're really, you're really trying to compete with an Arnold movie. But in your opinion, what movie is better, Commando or Silver Bullet? What movie do you love more?
I can't remember Commando to the life of me.
Alyssa Milano's best work. I'm telling you, Alyssa Milano's best work. She never did anything better than fucking Commando.
I was gonna say I like Alyssa Milano.
I do too.
What you're saying, I got some things to. So like, I love. He's just, whatever you see him in or whatever he's doing, like, he's just character. That dude just does whatever the fuck he wants.
Oh, Gary Busey, yeah.
Whenever he wants. Yeah, and I love, there was like one line that stuck out to me in the movie, and it was where he's like, I'm a little too old to be playing Hardy Boys meet Reverend Werewolf.
Yeah. And this is all ad-libbed. He didn't he took the script and like threw it away and just drank the entire time. And I was like, man, that is fucking acting at its fucking peak. That's amazing.
Fucking method acting right there.
Yeah.
And so I guess like the costume, the final costume, like was made out of like polyurethane and foam.
Yeah.
And they covered it with actual bear hair.
Which I thought was awesome. And that's another thing. It's like a lot of people hated the way the werewolf looked. Not me. I like the way he looks. I think he looks rad. And it is really hard to make a werewolf not suck. There's a lot of films out there that do it where they just looks fucking awful. It's really hard, and that's the thing. Like werewolf movies, they don't give it a lot of credit. That's one of the things. One of the like big like movie style monsters that don't get a lot of credit, because when you get a werewolf movie, I like the fact that this sticks to the fucking basics. This is a good example of a simple werewolf film that has a really good twist and a really good story to it. Without the book, I think this movie would just be like one of those B-graded movies. But with this book standing behind it, and I really think the book stands on top and the movie stands behind it. And it's one of those Stephen King films that doesn't get talked about a lot, and I really do love the film. So when it comes to a werewolf film,
Yeah.
like you really gotta, I don't know, man. You go, for me, it's gotta, you gotta be able to turn into a werewolf at the full moon, and you have no desire, you can't talk. I think talking is stupid. That's actually one of the things in this film that they originally wanted the werewolf to talk. He was supposed to like able to speak words and shit, and I think that's dumb. That's dumb. I'm sorry. Like werewolves aren't supposed to talk. You're an uncontrollable beast, and you're out just to fucking brutally murder people. No rhyme. Sometimes no rhyme, no reason is cool, but like the fact that this has like a story to it is really good.
Yeah, and you got to give it credit where credit's due too. Is like, I mean, CGI wasn't, we didn't really have CGI.
Right.
You have like practical effects, and you've got, you got to work with what you got, and they like did the best with what they had. And like, and most of the movies nowadays, CGI sucks. Like,
exactly.
Even, no matter how good they've gotten at it, they don't, like, all these creatures in these movies still look fake as shit. Like they don't have it nailed. It has to be the perfect amount of practical effect to CGI now to make it even work like the way that you want it to. Like look at Jurassic Park, the original Jurassic Park. Like it was a mix of CGI with like a puppeteered dinosaur. Like you have to have both coexisting to like have a smooth like finish.
Exactly.
Like because practical effects only go so far.
Exactly.
CGI only goes so far. So they've got to work together.
Yeah, exactly.
But they did good. Like at the end, like the Reverend turning back, like they did pretty good at like his hair like going back and like him turning back into a human. It was like pretty good for that time, And I agree. Like the werewolf shouldn't talk. Like you said, the beast takes over. They become the animal.
Yes.
That's underneath the skin. I mean, shit. Would a normal wolf talk? No.
No. Exactly.
Like, it's all business. It's like they're out to hunt. They're out to get their prey, and that's fucking it.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly, dude. Another thing. Oh, okay. So, so they couldn't decide on a movie cover for this film. So if you notice, if the DVD, the VHS, and the movie poster are 3 different posters, which I'll post at the end of this video. I'll do a slideshow and I'll post what they all 3 look like. The best film, the best movie cover of this is the fact that is the Spanish version, because they have Corey Haim on the wheelchair and they have the werewolf in this blood moon. The original movie poster, it just says Silver Bullet in bold blue, like black lettering, and then a black background, and then everybody's name. So it was really didn't catch your eye. The VHS cover looks kind of like really cartoony. It's got like the congregation of the werewolves in the background, and then it's got Marty on the bottom. And then there was another movie poster that they did when they so the first movie poster came out, then they did a second movie poster, which was basically the same thing, except they put like a silhouette of like a forest with a moon in the back, and it looked terrible. And then you've got the DVD cover, which is the werewolf that's like half, like he's changing, and then it's got the rip with Corey in the middle, and then something on the bottom. I can't remember. So they really couldn't catch the public's eye with they couldn't grab your attention. And that's what I think one of the biggest things you need to do is you need to grab everyone's attention when it comes to a film that you want to get out there. Like, look at Maximum Overdrive for argument's sake. Like, look at that cover. You've got the big toy truck with just blown out fucking front end with blood all over it, and it looks like an awesome movie. But is it an awesome movie? No, it's a fucking terrible piece of shit movie. It's like it is like Stephen King's like Cocaine Baby. Like, he was fucked up when he did that movie, and I love that film, but like that's Stephen King's worst work ever. But like the movie cover is fucking rad. So when it comes to the movie cover, I think you really need to grab people's attention, and the fact that they couldn't pull that off is, I think that's why it tanked in the box office so hard. If you would have had a rad fucking movie cover, I think it would have sold really well.
Yeah, because I mean, well, look at all the posters nowadays. Like when you go to the movie cinema, like you have to have something that catches people's eye.
Exactly.
If I just put up like you said, like just the names and then the title, that's so bland. Like shit, you might as well just post your grocery list on.
Right. Well, man, I had an awesome time talking about this movie, this book with you. What do you got going on next?
Oh shit! Some more guest reviews. You know, my band's doing some shows coming up. I got one coming up in October on the 15th.
Nice.
Place out here in Spokane called the Big Dipper. That's gonna be fun. It's like we're co-headlining. We actually it's funny. There's another band we're playing with. We flipped a coin for who was gonna headline. We got the short end of that stick, but you know, and you know, just keeping up on content. Hopefully, you know, I've got a episode coming out. Hopefully, I think soon with Sledgehammer Horror.
Nice.
For my first horror film. I'm excited for that. Like, it was a fun time, and just loving the horror and sharing my love of horror with everyone like yourself, man.
Fuck yeah, man.
I appreciate having me on.
Absolutely, brother. This is a blast. So, if you guys want to follow Josh on Nightmare on Woodsboro Lake or his band, they'll all be linked in the description box below. And this, what you see here, is going to be a monthly thing. We're going to switch off channels, so make sure you're following Josh, because I might be on his channel next month. And until next time, if you're new to the channel, I post every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Make sure you're checking Josh out. Make sure you're checking me out. As always, hit that like button, subscribe, stay horror, and I'll see you next time. Make sure you like and subscribe. Follow us on Facebook, Clintonville Slashers Club, and on Instagram, Frankenhooker Band. Links will be in the description box below. Slashers on the loose, Clintonville. Maybe next time I come for you. You're gonna die, bitch!